Faith and Family Fellowship Podcast is a Christ-centered podcast. Established in 2019 and hosted weekly by Pastor Chris Busher. Addressing a host of topics such as the Great Commission, Christian discipleship, and often featuring interviews with special guests who are experts in their field. The views and events expressed on this podcast and all related materials belong solely to their author and not necessarily to the author's employer, organization, committee, or other group or individual. While all attempts are made to present accurate information, some information may become outdated over time. Faith and Family Fellowship Podcast makes every attempt to timely update any and all such information. Without further delay, here's another powerful episode of Faith and Family Fellowship Podcast.
Welcome back to another episode of Faith and Family Fellowship Podcast. Once again, my name is Dallas here. Today we have another wonderful guest joining us, Isaiah Cruz. Isaiah, how are you today?
I am doing well, thank you.
It's such a pleasure to have you. We've talked a little bit before we started recording here, and I'm very, very excited about this interview today. I think it's a special topic that our audience don't hear much about. I don't think this is something that's talked about enough. And so I'm really interested to hear your story, your background, and your understanding of this topic. And so before we talk about this, I just want to give you some time. Tell us about who you are, Isaiah, your life, and we'll go from there.
Okay, perfect. Well, thanks for having me. I'm really excited to do this podcast. I think it's going to be great interview. So like you said, my name is Isaiah Cruz. I am a psychiatric mental health nurse practitioner, specialized in addiction medicine. I've been doing addiction medicine for about 6 years now. Anything from heroin addiction, cocaine addiction, food addictions, and now most recently pornography addictions. So just to get a quick background as far as my faith goes, I was raised in the church. Ever since I can remember, I always believed in Jesus. Raised in a pretty strict conservative church. It was never blatantly said, but by the time I was 18, I just got the impression that if you don't cuss, if you don't smoke, if you don't drink, you're a Christian. It wasn't until I was really about 21 until I really took my faith and made it my own. Until I really I heard the phrase righteousness apart from works by grace alone. And that phrase just changed my life, changed the way I saw the Bible, changed the way I did everything. And since then, it's just been a constant pursuit of Christ, ups and downs, like anything else. But that's kind of the short version of my testimony. And so, yeah.
And about your career a little bit, when did you feel led to go into this field of medicine?
Yeah, good question. So as soon as I graduated as a family practice nurse practitioner in 2016, and I went directly into addiction medicine. So my experience before that was
why addiction medicine though? Because I know there's so many different avenues. Yes. Why this one?
Right. Nobody chooses addiction medicine unless they have a reason. Most of my patients will say, are you in recovery? And I had some advice early on not to share my personal story with patients from a colleague. But I always tell my patients, nobody goes into addiction medicine without a good reason, whether it's them personally or a family member or a friend who has suffered from an addiction. That's why you go into addiction medicine. Nobody goes to school, I'm going to go ahead and sign up to work with heroin addicts. It just doesn't happen. So I graduated, went directly into addiction medicine. Why? Well, because I was exposed to the addicted patient working as an emergency room nurse. Our facility had a psychiatric unit attached to it, which did also drug abuse. So being the male nurse, when surrounded by female nurses, they would always give me the rougher group. So that you're a guy, you can handle it. So I would inherit a lot of the patients in active withdrawal, and I didn't mind it. I enjoyed talking with them. I enjoyed helping with them. And so that's kind of when I graduated and I found this job. It was with an opiate addiction clinic working with heroin addicts. I thought, you know what? I've had some experience with this. I kind of like that group of people. And I really think it's we're in an opiate epidemic. You know, thousands, hundreds of thousands of people are dying. I want to be a part of the solution. I don't want to be a part of the problem. I don't want to prescribe opiates. I want to help people who have the problem.
Wow. That's true, because a lot of people are prescribed this. Yeah, definitely.
Absolutely. And you can prescribe it with all good intentions, but eventually you're going to get somebody who misuses it or becomes dependent on it. You don't really need to. And so, I decided I want to be a part of the solution.
Incredible. Thank you for sharing that with us, Isaiah. I feel like we have a little bit more understanding of who you are.
Yeah.
You're listening to the Faith and Family Fellowship Podcast. We'll be right back after this quick word from our sponsors.
The Prophetic War on Words. Learn secrets on how to win the war of words from creation to the Battle of Armageddon. Since the beginning of creation, there has been a prophetic war on words that will continue until the Battle of Armageddon. This war is about God's words against the devil's words. All of humanity is caught in the middle of this war. In the last days, God has destined His church to relearn ancient secrets revealed to Old Testament prophets, historical men of God, and the closest of Jesus' disciples in winning the war of words. This book is a prophetic warfare manual for every believer who wants to learn the secrets of gaining the upper hand when fighting the good fight of faith. Find your copy on Amazon today. Michael Soward's journey started many decades before COVID-19's entry into the world that shocked everyone. The sheer drama of it all reignited his hunger to search and seek a deeper, very serious bond with the Lord Jesus Christ. The Holy Spirit prompted him to reintroduce himself to the powerful, legendary teachings of Dr. Paul G. Trulin, entitled My Body, His Life series. The amazing, invisible Jesus Christ lives inside all of us that will receive Him, says Michael. Find Michael Soward Presents podcast on all streaming platforms. And now into your company. Can you just tell us, what is the name of your company?
nox.net. So it kind of stands for no X-rated material, no X. And that's kind of how it came about. So we just launched last month, June 2022. It came about last year. It took a little bit to build the website and get all the credentialing. There's a certificate, credentialing body over telemedicine in the United States. So we had to get credentialed with them, which kind of took a while. But so it all came about because I was doing alcohol addiction and weight loss medication, which is food addiction. And the medication naltrexone is used for both of those. And then I had about 5 different men who came for refills, and they said, I'm not really using it for alcohol or for weight loss. I'm using it for porn. It keeps me away from porn. And I just thought, man, that takes a lot of guts to admit, because there's so much shame surrounding porn, that I thought, how many guys out there are taking my medication and aren't telling me about their porn addiction? So then I started researching medical journal articles about medication for porn use. And it turns out there's 2 main medications. There's been at least 10 different journal articles that I found supporting the use of naltrexone and or citalopram, which is an antidepressant. So I ran it across a couple of colleagues. One of my colleagues really wanted to support. She loved the idea. She wanted to support it. So we kind of teamed up, started NoX at the end of last year. And it took us about 6 months a little more than 6 months to get going.
It's interesting to hear your perspective of treating addictions with medicine, because I was a drug addict as well. And the other host of our show, he was also a drug addict. And we have both been a part of a program that deals with addicts of all various forms: food, porn, drugs, alcohol, and so on. And in our facility, it's a faith-based program, but we didn't prescribe medicine. It was a year-long program where we had the Bible, we went through this format. And so hearing someone talk about healing porn or being free from porn with medicine is just different for me to hear. I definitely agree that pornography is an addiction, like you're saying, and food addiction and all of those things. And so I'm really interested about what you have to say on this. So with pornography here, let's say some of the statistics in the US, because I think it's easy for our audience to just sweep this conversation under the rug or say, yes, it's me, but I'm not going to talk about it. So let's just give our audience some statistics to start.
Yeah, I highlighted a few statistics. I can go on and on. There's pages and pages of statistics, but I highlighted a couple here just for time's sake. Pornography is the 3rd most common form of sex trafficking, according to the cases reported by the National Human Trafficking Hotline. And that's astounding that most people don't realize that a lot of pornography contributes to the sex trade. Approximately 91% of men and 60% of women have consumed porn in the last month alone. And 98% of men have viewed porn in the last 6 months. And that's kind of one of our angles here with NoX, is be the top 2%. And so 98% of men have watched porn in the last 6 months. That's a lot.
It's a lot.
Now that doesn't include Christians, which I'll get into the Christian statistics here in a minute. Minors in porn. 11 years old is the average age of first exposure. And those are just children. I have an 11-year-old daughter, and she's just a kid. And to imagine that being exposed to porn at that young, it's hard. 94% of children will see porn by the age of 14. 94% of children will see porn by the age of 14. That's a crazy statistic.
Man.
And here's another one. Teens and young adults view not recycling as more immoral than viewing porn. And that was teenagers 18 to 24. People 18 to 24 view not recycling as more immoral than viewing porn.
Wow.
Yeah,
what do you think is the number one exposure to these people, these 14-year-olds or the 11-year-olds like you're talking about? How are they exposed? Is it accidental? Is it curiosity? From your research, what would you say? Yeah.
So there is a certain number who are just accidentally exposed, and they're just searching for a term that they see as innocent, and they stumble upon pornography. Oftentimes, a friend or a neighbor, an older neighbor kid, who shows them, "Hey, look what I found," and they view it that way. See. New research says that children under the age of 10, porn consumed by pediatrics, 22% of it is consumed by 8 and 9-year-olds. So children aged 10 to 14 make up about 36% of the porn used by children.
Some of these kids don't even have phones yet. You know what I mean?
Right.
How? Yeah. How is this happening?
Yes. Yeah. The parents have to take some responsibility for it. Unmonitored internet access, and it's a free for all in the internet world.
What about the Christian statistics? You were saying that you had some of those as well.
Yes, that's yes. So of the young Christians aged 18 to 24, 76% actively search for porn. Overall, 21% of youth pastors and 14% of pastors admit that they have struggled, that they currently struggle with porn. So it's 21% of youth pastors and 14% of pastors admit that they currently struggle with pornography. And then, so Christian men age 18 to 30, 36% view porn on a daily basis. And then for Christian men ages 31 to 49, 18% admit to being addicted to pornography, and another 8% think they might be. So then marriage seems like the antidote to pornography, right? I get a wife, I won't have to do that. Well, married Christian men, 55% of married Christian men look at porn at least once a month.
Man, you said that I might be an addict or I am an addict. What is the difference between that? Might be or am.
Yeah, and it all goes down to how you define an addiction. And kind of like what we spoke about earlier, some people resist the idea that pornography is a real addiction. And my answer is, well, how do you define an addiction? And then, if you define an addiction as a chemical substance, well, then it's not an addiction. I define addiction as doing something that's harmful and continuing to do it even though you don't want to.
That's addiction.
Yeah, that's an addiction. And pornography is something you try to stop and you can't, and it is harming you. So it's whether you're not addicted to porn or not, it's kind of vague. There is a couple of different scales to measure a person's addiction to pornography. None of them are concrete. It's not like a hard science. It's how much is this affecting my life, and can I stop? most of the listeners here are Christians, assuming. So the question of if porn is wrong really isn't a question.
No, right,
So
exactly.
it is wrong. And so then I need to stop, and you need to stop now, today. And if you try to stop and can't, or swear off of porn and then a month later have a binge weekend and then hate yourself for it, have guilt, shame, feel like a hypocrite, and then go another 3 months without porn and then do it again, well, that might qualify you. And of course, so we do the medication aspect of things. Not everybody's a good candidate for medicine. Not everybody needs medicine. But if you're the type of person I just described who's been struggling this for years and you have 6 months of sobriety and then mess it up, and then 3 months and then mess it up, it might be time to consider medication.
Another thing that you said here was you were talking about that you need to start now. You need to deal with this now. And I think that that's something that we tend to do as Christians, like another day, a new day of mercy tomorrow, I already messed up today. Tomorrow I'll try again, and we need to deal with it today. Another thing I like to preach when I'm preaching here in Brazil as a missionary is that Jesus is the one who cleans us. We think, I need to clean myself off, and then maybe Sunday I'll deal with the problem with Jesus at church. But no, Jesus is responsible for the cleaning. He is the one. And so I love what you're saying. I love it here. Another thing I want to ask is the agenda of these industries producing it, because you said that the target is teenagers. I mean, look at the statistics that you just read. How do we protect ourselves? How do we protect our children with this situation?
Yeah, the industry does tend to target minors. And why? It's because their brains aren't fully developed. Your brain really isn't fully developed until age 25, give or take. So it's easier to experience neuroplasticity, which is a medical term for just changes in the brain. So CAT scan of a brain, CAT scan of an addict's brain, they physically look different. And there's just several studies out there now that these brain images of chronic pornography users are similar to the people who chronically use cocaine, who chronically use heroin. The changes in the brain are almost identical. How that happens is anytime you're addicted to anything, food, sex, drugs, gambling, whatever it is, you do that activity, your brain releases dopamine because it liked it. I was like, hey, let's do that again. I liked it. We do that thousands and thousands of times. Your brain creates pathways in your brain to think about it, because that's what I like to do. So it's almost like kind of incorporate Pavlov's laws. When I'm stressed, I do this. I'm stressed, I need to look at porn because it releases that dopamine to relax me. When I'm lonely and sad, I look at porn because I need to relax me. So before you know it, that's what your brain goes to when you're having a bad day, when you're stressed out. And it gets to a point where it's almost a compulsion. You can't help it because your brain automatically goes there. So people who research this stuff says it takes about a year. It takes about 1 to 2 years for your brain to destroy all those old pathways and create new healthy pathways. And some people can do that without medicine. Some people might need a little medication to get it going. But back to your original question here, the porn industry and the teenagers and children. Yeah. And the target is because they are susceptible. I mean, let's face it, teenagers tend to have a little higher sex drive, right? And a little more motivation to seek out sexual content, whether it's to learn about sex or to or whatnot. So and then as far as protecting our children, right now, in order to access porn, you just need internet access of any kind, phone, computer, and then you go to a porn site. The only thing stopping you from going to a porn site is, are you 18 or older? Yes or no? Well, all you do have to click yes. There's nothing stopping a child from clicking yes, which is another thing that NoX wants to change eventually, is create some laws that prevent this. Because I'm a nurse. In order to get the nurse's discount at Under Armour, I have to register at ID.me, which I have to give my nurse's license. I have to give a copy of that. I have to give a copy of my driver's license, put in my name, my address, everything. And then I get a code that I can put into Under Armour's website to get their discount. Why can't we have this for adult websites to prevent these children from accessing porn?
That's amazing. I like what you're saying here, that I mean, this takes me to the next question here, is that what is your goal as this company, NoX? To raise awareness, to stop this? What is the goal here?
Both, yes. So ideally, we want to raise awareness and help people. So if you get medicine from us, great. We're a telemedicine company. We sell medication to all 50 states and Washington, D.C. If you use us, great. We love it. If you just go to your family doctor and ask for medication, that's okay too. We're happy. We're happy that you're doing that. Now, most people are a little hesitant to go to their family doctor and say, hey, I'm addicted to pornography. And for whatever reason, maybe they grew up with that family doctor. And there is some shame around it.
And would the doctor react to it the same way that you guys do? Or would they prescribe medicine? Or is it not typical?
Most likely no. Unless you're dealing with an addiction specialist, they would say, let's send you to therapy, which I'm all about therapy. I love therapy. And it's a necessary aspect. But if you failed therapy and you're on your last leg, kind of like NoX is if you've tried and failed, let's try medication. Oftentimes people, they don't necessarily seek help until their life crashes down, until their wife says, we're going to get a divorce if you can't stop watching porn. So then, this guy is like, my life is over. I need to quit. Like my life depends on it, because it does. So then let's throw everything and the kitchen sink at it, including therapy, medicine, accountability, everything, to try to get this over with. So yeah, the goal of NoX, raise awareness, provide access to medication if necessary. And like I said, eventually we want to tackle some of the legal aspects of how pornography is marketed to children.
Yeah, that's amazing. I've never heard anyone talk like that before. Like the exact, like what you said with Under Armour. I mean, that's a great example there to do that.
Yeah.
That's so good. We should definitely be doing that. Why are we not?
Right. I mean, it's common sense. Like, and whether, in the secular world, there's people who think that pornography is just okay. And there's nothing immoral about it. Regardless of what you view, that children shouldn't be able to consent to watching pornography, whether you're secular or Christian. It's a matter of exposing children to this. So, not to oversimplify things, but one of the best ways to protect our children is just to talk about it, and just so the younger kids, they might need some terminology, some vocabulary to call. Call a spade. And so when the neighbor kid does expose them to pornography, they can say, this is pornography. I should not watch it. And then give them permission to tell you about it. Tell their parents, listen, Jim Bob showed me some pornography. And then the parent's job is not to freak out. So if you prepare your kid,
I'm going to Jimmy Bob's house and I'm going to have a talk with him,
Right. Yeah. So, but if you prepare your kid, give them the terminology. This is what pornography is. This is why it's bad. This is why people like it. This is why your friends are going to show it to you. Statistically, 94% of kids before they're age 14 are going to be exposed to it. So
when you're saying this, I'm thinking about our audience who have children who are worried about this. What is the right age to tell a child? Because of your expertise here, you have a daughter, 11. What is the right age to talk about this?
Yes. So you can start talking about it as soon as 5, 6. There's books, a book I read to my I have 4 daughters, 2, 7, 8, and 11. Book I like is Good Pictures, Bad Pictures. And it explains in a child's format what a bad picture is and what to do when you are exposed to a bad picture. So you have to, I always say a storm is coming, let's grab an umbrella. We know the world is crazy and the pornography is out there. Let's at least prepare our kids, give them the tools they need. Call body parts by their correct names. And if a mom and dad can't say penis and vagina without giggling, how are they going to expect their kids to do that? So we have to give our kids the tools to overcome this, to battle it. We have to be the gatekeepers of internet. A child should not have unlimited, unmonitored internet access, and that's just common sense. Some of us are too lazy for it. I'm right there with you. I was lazy. I was like, oh, my daughter's a good kid. She's not gonna, do that. Well, people stumble on it on accident, and so We have like a internet blocker right now. Which is it's kind of hard because I'm in the porn industry. So that's a kind of a joke my wife says. It's like she meets a friend and says, "What's Isaiah doing?" "Oh, he's in the porn industry."
Oh my.
It's like an inside joke. But it's hard for me to do research because our internet I have kids and our internet does block some of this stuff. So
my question also, do you recommend any internet blockers out there for our parents listening today?
Yeah. So there is, I forget the terminology, but there is internet blockers that'll block it at the IP address. So anybody who's logging onto your IP address will do it. I know Disney has one, Google has one. So as your children are younger, internet blockers are best. They have no access to it. As your children get older, and parents have to decide this age, accountability software is the way to go, because you want to expose your children to this. Let me rephrase that. You want to expose your children to the tough decisions before they're 18. But while you still have sway over them, you want to allow them to make these hard decisions. And so accountability software like Covenant Eyes is better for the older.
That is one I've used before with working in ministry, is Covenant Eyes. I didn't know if there was others out there.
And they don't block in bad sites. They have an accountability buddy. So when a risky site is accessed, it emails your buddies to say, "Hey, Jim Bob over here is looking at this. You may want to talk with them." And obviously it'll notify the parents if they have if they access a risky site. They do have it for mobile phones as well. So that's also an idea. So also, parents, we have to be a good example. Do you flip the channel when the sex scene comes up on a TV? And
another question.
Yeah. And you have to, I have 4 daughters, and this phrase kind of changed the way I view things. You have to be the man you want your daughter to marry. And that kind of just stuck with me. And so, are you flipping that channel? And then some of these commercials are crazy. Are you calling it out? You just tell your kid, "Hey, do you see how they're trying to sell their product with sex appeal that she's not wearing very much, and they're trying to sell that product because of that?" Just call it out. There's an elephant in the room, right? Let's just give it a name. And that way your children are exposed to it and they know how you view it.
That's good, because our culture is becoming more sexual every single day,
Absolutely.
all the time. Music, TV, movies, everything is becoming more.
Absolutely. So some of the dangers behind porn. And again, this podcast is a Christian audience, so I shouldn't have to say why porn is bad. But some of the depression, anxiety, social isolation, and then especially as Christians, you have a crushing guilt and hypocrisy surrounding porn, shame, and then back a little bit back to the changes in the brain. Repeated exposure to pornography is something called downregulation of the dopamine channels. So that's a medical term. What it means is you need more and more dopamine stimulation to get the same result, tolerance. So a person gets less joy out of life when they're addicted to porn, because everyday things that, hugging your kids, doing things you enjoy, exercising, they're not giving you the dopamine that your brain is used to. So that
another thing you sent me is that you begin to objectify people, right?
Absolutely.
Can you talk about that a little bit more as well?
Yeah. So objectifying people, people who view porn are more likely to objectify women. Women are addicted to porn too, and it's not just a male thing anymore. And so you start seeing people as objects or viewing sex as a selfish act instead of a unity type act. And one thing that we tell a lot of young couples and or like premarital stuff is don't try to mimic what you see in porn. Because by the time people are 22, 25, they've seen porn, right? Almost everybody, except the top 2% maybe haven't. But you're going to try to mimic that pornographic behavior, which is going to be degrading and sometimes dangerous.
I think that's a great point as well, which takes away the fear of the teenagers that think I need to learn. I need to understand before I get there.
Yeah.
So I'm educated. Right? It takes away that lie.
Yeah. Oh, it's a lie. It's a huge lie. I seen this TED talk about pornography because I do a lot of research on pornography, and this is a therapist, and she was providing therapy to a young 21-year-old, and he's like, my girlfriend's just not happy. Maybe I should start pulling her hair during sex, or maybe we should try anal. And she's like, no, none of that is okay. And it's just astounding how we view that as normal. And it's not necessarily kids' fault. They view that as normal because that's what our society is giving it to them.
Man. What else can you tell us about your medicine, the services that you offer, just overall for our audience to capture that again?
Yeah. So we decided when we started this company, we're just going to do the medicine because there's a lot. We encourage therapy. We encourage biblical therapy and accountability. All of that stuff is good, but you can get that everywhere. What you can't get is medication. Not a whole lot of family doctors know that this medication is used for pornography. So we wanted to just specialize in one thing. So we offer naltrexone. Naltrexone, it works in 3 ways. 1, it makes a person less impulsive overall. 2, it helps to reduce intrusive thoughts about pornography. And then 3, it reduces the endorphin release from pornography. And I'm not encouraging people to continue to use pornography while taking this medication. The idea is, just like Pavlov's law, when you open up your computer, knowing that you're going to go to a pornography site, your brain already starts releasing that dopamine, and it's already getting your primed. The medication stops it before it even starts. It'll stop that. So when you have to open up your computer to do something else, and that, let's go to a porn site. Well, it shuts that down. So either 1, you don't think about it, or 2, when you do think about it, it isn't as alluring because that dopamine isn't being released.
And the second question attached to that is, what are the side effects? Are there some side effects that people should watch out for with this medicine?
Yeah, absolutely. So most people can tolerate naltrexone with minimal to no side effects. And when starting off, we have you taper on because it can cause some upset stomachs, some nausea, gas-like pains. Drinking lots of water will help to minimize that. Most people can tolerate it fairly well. The biggest question I get is, will it affect my sex drive? Will it block the endorphins from having sex, from working out, from hugging my kids? Short answer is no. And naltrexone blocks exogenous endorphin release, meaning from outside the body. So, like I said before, it's used as a weight loss pill, so comfort food may not feel as comforting. It's used to block alcohol, and it's used off-label for gambling as well. But pornography is one reason why we're using it. So that tends to be our number 1 seller. Oftentimes, married men like it because it doesn't affect their sex drive. Fair enough. Next medication we use is citalopram. If you're allergic to that, we can use sertraline. Both which are in the same category, SSRIs, they're antidepressants. Reason why we use that for pornography, which there's a lot of literature supporting us, is it does 2 things. 1, it reduces anxiety when surrounding pornography cessation. Then 2, SSRIs are known for causing sexual dysfunction. So it reduces libido and causes you to think about sex less. So ideal for people who are single, who aren't sexually active, and they don't necessarily need to think about sex. And none of the medications are meant to be used for life. And I always say medication's a tool. You still have to do all the hard work. Medicate is just so happens that jobs are easier when you have the right tools for the right job. And that's what the medication is.
Yeah. Well, Isaiah, thank you so much for all the things you said today. I feel very informed. I can't wait to talk with my wife about this and share with my other friends who I was motivating about this coming episode today. And what else can you tell us? If you could leave our audience with one overall point, what do you think that would be today?
That's a good question. So I guess the biggest thing I want to emphasize is you have to quit now, like we talked about, and it's okay to ask for help. It's okay to use every resource that you can get your hands on. YouTube videos, like I said, TED Talks, reach out to your pastors or clergy, reach out to your friends. And so there's so much shame around pornography, and it's only shameful because we made it shameful. We have to get past that. Like I said, 98% of men have watched porn in the last 6 months. You're not alone. Let's just call it what it is, get it out in the open so it's no longer shameful, and we can talk about it and get like I said, use every resource possible. And if that includes medicine, that's great. If not, that's great as well.
I think you're right, because when you said statistics earlier about Christianity and about pastors who admitted, because that's the only statistic you said who admitted were right. The ones in the church. And I think that that's the key. It's so much shame. We don't want to talk about it. We don't talk about it in church. We don't have enough information. And yeah, I think this is an excellent podcast for those people who have been fighting this battle alone and are afraid to talk about it. And I think that this is perfect.
Another important aspect related to Christianity's quitting porn is Romans 8, 12, and 13, I believe. If by the Spirit we put to death the deeds of the body, you will live. And that's the key difference between a secular person stopping porn and a Christian person stopping porn. It's by the Spirit. You have to quit porn in a way that God gets the glory. So how do we do that? I prescribe medication, so I'm all about medication. So doesn't mean we can't still give God the glory. So if by the Spirit, so that's a great way to word it, but what does that actually mean? Well, the Spirit of God is the Word of God. And we know this because Genesis says that, and also the armor of God. So we have to put to death the deeds of the body. Of the armor of God, what is a tool used for putting to death? The sword, which is the Word. So use the Word to put to death the deeds of the body, memorizing Scripture, keeping it close to you at all times, keeping it in your heart. This is what sets us apart from the secular people who quit porn, which is still a good thing. I still promote, but we have to do it in a way that gives God the glory.
I think that's an excellent phrase, a way that gives God the glory.
Yeah.
Thank you again, Isaiah, for all the things that you brought today.
Yes,
where can we find your website, your social media, other things like that to get involved?
Yeah, no-x.net. So no-x, the letter x.net. That's our website. We do have a little bit of a blog there where I try to post things every so often. We're on social media, no-x. You can search, we have links on our website. You can search Facebook, Instagram, all that stuff.
Excellent. Thank you so much again. Can I have you end our time today with a prayer? I would really appreciate it.
Yes. Thank you, God, for your love and your grace that you have for us. Thank you that there's no condemnation for those who are in Christ. We thank you for your forgiveness and the grace that you give us. We pray for all the listeners here who this resonates with, or whose spouses this resonates with, their spouse or friends. We pray that you can just motivate them to seek out help, seek out you, and that you can get the glory, that we can help people eradicate porn in a way that you still get the glory. Thank you so much for everything that you've given us. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
You've just listened to the Faith and Family Fellowship Podcast with your host, Pastor Chris Busher. Faith and Family Fellowship Podcast was recorded live in studio with final editing made before uploading. Subscribe today to Faith and Family Fellowship Podcast on iTunes or Google Play. For more fantastic daily content, visit Pastor Chris Busher online via Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram. Don't miss the next episode on Faith and Family Fellowship Podcast.